What's up, guys? We got a game with the white pieces. Um, we're gonna go 1c4. We are rated 645. Our opponent's rated 428. And today is my Easter, so I was celebrating with my family. Now I'm back home. A little faded, but it shouldn't be a problem at this elo. So I go c4, he goes c5. I'm now just going to go g3 and develop my bishop to this nice diagonal which controls a great many light squares. Black develops his knight towards the center, controlling some dark squares, developing a piece. It makes sense. The natural follow-up for me would be to bring my bishop to g2, which is what I'm going to do. So everything makes a lot of sense right now. Let's see. So my opponent moves a piece for the second time just to attack this pawn. Now, what I want you guys to see is that he could develop this piece, 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 he could develop this piece. So he could develop all of his minor pieces, and he's choosing not to, and to move the same piece a second time. Don't do this. Instead, once you move this guy, and then move this guy, and then castle, and then move each piece once if possible. So now he moved his knight to the side, attacking my c4 pawn. Fine. I am going to just defend this pawn with d3, which not only defends, but also opens up my bishop's diagonal. And it now touches enemy squares. My opponent moves the knight a third time in 4 moves. Clearly this isn't good. Clearly. He sees that this pawn is defended, so he might as well go back. Fine. This just gives me even more time to develop my pieces, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to develop my knight behind the c pawn to its natural square on c3. This is very harmonious with my position because 1, 2, 3 pieces are all coordinating on the d5 square. So my opponent goes knight f6, controlling these, touching these squares, but they're really under my control. But he develops a piece, so developing is always the answer. But now it's my turn. What am I going to do? Well, I can develop my knight, I can develop my bishop. Well, to remain flexible, I'm going to develop my knight. That way I can castle, and I'll decide what to do with this bishop later on, depending on what my opponent does. So my opponent now moves his other knight for a second time, wasting more time. He goes to the edge of the board, and I ask myself, what does this threaten? It threatens nothing. What are the drawbacks? Well, he's wasting time that he should be developing. He's also undefending central squares that were previously defended. So, terrible move. Now it's my turn. Okay, let's see, what do we have? Well, we should castle. Standard, principled moves. I haven't done anything crazy. I haven't done anything out of the ordinary. All I've done is literally develop my pieces and castle. He now moves his knight back. What is the threat? This move threatens nothing. What is the drawback of this move? Well, it wastes even more time. He's just going back and forth for no reason. Now, my turn is white. What should I be looking at? Checks, captures, and threats. There's none of that here, and we're still in the developing stage. So I still haven't completed development. So I'm going to bring this bishop out. Where should I bring it? I mean, you can go to here, you can go here, you can go here. You can really go wherever you want. I'm going to pick... I'll pick here. Bishop g5. Make some contact with the knight. It's an okay move. he, he now brings his knight back home. So now I have 4 pieces developed, and he has 1 piece developed. So clearly this is not good for him. Something has gone very wrong. So what do I do from here? Well, it's an interesting question. I'm not used to being so ahead in development in a c4 position like this. That's pretty funny. Oh my god. Okay, we can continue developing. Um, we can get our rooks more active. Like, basically, we want to try to push b4, right? Because that's where our pawn chain is. That's where our bishop's headed. That's where we're doing well. And all of our stuff is pointing. We also have knights in the center, so we can really go wherever we want, but um, huh. I think I'm gonna sack a pawn here, maybe. I'm gonna start with a3, and then I'm gonna go b4, and he'll take. I was gonna say I take, and then he takes with his knight, winning a pawn. But then I'll bring in like another heavy piece, and then bring my rook to the b file, and in Benko Gambit fashion, try to get compensation for the pawn. But he moves his knight back home, which is obviously dumb. And now every single piece is on its starting square except for the c pawn, which is, I guess he's trolling. I don't really know what he's doing. This is dumb. But whatever. So, you know, in a position like this, if I had played an e4 opening, my light square bishop would probably be on this diagonal. Oops, this diagonal. And I can immediately just attack and go for checkmate. But because I played c4, even though he's doing this dumb stuff, I don't have like an immediate sack towards the king, just the way the layout is. So I'm just gonna go with the queen side pressure and just push over here right now. He takes, obviously you're gonna take back. I mean, that's an obvious move. And now my rook is open up as well as my queen. And clearly I have a winning position just because of my crazy lead in development. He develops another knight back out, which does nothing, serves no purpose, and walks into b5 because he can't go here, here, or here. I mean, he can, but it's really kind of a bad square, I feel like. Like, if I go queen a4, it hits the knight twice. He defends like this, though. There's no need for that. I mean, this knight's misplaced. We'll just leave it here for now. It's no big deal. So what else can we do? How can we improve our queen? Let's see. Maybe we can move our queen here at some point, but the knight hitting this. Let's just go and develop our queen like we said, because it comes with a threat. If he does play this to defend, it will open up the bishop's scope hitting the rook. But instead he sacks the knight, which is, you know, clearly dumb because it loses a piece. So I'm just going to take it, and now I have ideas of attacking the king and causing problems with my leading development. So I'm going to do that. He may do this like a noob and then get checkmated, but we'll see. This move also, in addition to threatening mate in 1, opens up the bishop's diagonal, and also his rook is hanging. So right now his pawn is hanging, his rook is hanging, checkmate is hanging, his other rook is hanging. There's a lot of stuff hanging, but in light of checkmate in 1 being the best move, I'm just going to do that. So we gained some points. That was easy. Obviously, if your opponent goes back and forth, you just keep developing your pieces and he's going to lose, right? So we get another game. We're now 654 playing a 540. So he goes 1e4. We have different options. This game, we'll play a caro-kann and we'll go 1c6. He develops his knight, of course, in the caro-kann. You always play d5 on the second move. And sometimes they take, sometimes they don't take. Fine. If they don't take, you can take. And then if they take back, their queen is hanging, which means their king has to take. And now his king can't castle. So white has achieved no opening advantage. Fine. I'm going to develop my knight with a tempo because it comes with a threat. It's a very natural move to develop. Right now you need to develop your minor pieces as fast and effectively as possible. He develops his queen's bishop. What does this threaten? It threatens nothing because the knight is protected. What are the drawbacks? The drawback is it undefends the b2 pawn. Also, he never defended the e4 pawn, so I'm just going to take it. Yes, this wastes time in the opening, so it's not always advisable, but there are no queens on the board, so it's a little less scary. Also, it comes with a threat and a tempo, so it's almost like you're not spending a turn if your opponent has to force themselves to react. Here, he doesn't see the threat, and instead of defending, he attacks the knight instantly, not even thinking, so why play a 10-minute game if you're not going to think? I'm obviously going to go and just fork everything, and the game is over. Not even 8 moves. I mean, why play chess? I mean, it may be harsh, but why play chess if you're not even going to, like, try, basically? I'm not saying you need to be good at chess, but, like, at least if you put in some effort, there's no way you don't see this, right? You know, he insta-moved the bishop, so that wasn't any true effort put in. And if you're just going to do that, you're just moving wood. You're not playing chess. So I'm just going to take his rook. And now I'm up 7 points of material. And I haven't moved anything. But you could say, well, that's justified by I'm up 7 points of material. And his king is in the center. And there are no queens on the board. So there's plenty of pluses there for me. So now we look at this position and we say, how do we continue developing as black? There's knight moves, right? But those aren't my immediate favorite. There's pawn moves, trying to get the bishop out. Also fine, but not my immediate favorite. My immediate favorite is either, let's say, bishop here because it comes with a threat, or bishop here because it pins the knight, which means you get another piece trade. Since you're up 7 points of material, I'm going to go for that. This guarantees a piece trade because the knight is pinned. I can take it whenever I want. And even when he wins this knight back, I'll still be up 4 points of material. That's more than enough. So, so he sacks his bishop on f7. And this is the theme when black takes back. Now the king is on f7. And in the theme, the motif is the knight then jumps in with a check. But here it's pinned. So that's not a thing. So I'm just going to take the free piece. And this motif doesn't work because the knight's pinned and the sacrifice was completely pointless. But I thank him for the piece. That was quite generous. So now he moves his king up 1. What does this threaten? Nothing. What's the drawback? Well, it's a complete waste of time and he's not developing. He's unpinning the knight, but I'm just going to take the knight, so it doesn't matter. He takes back with the king. Fine. I'm just going to start developing. First the knight, because knights are clumsy and slow. So I want to at least make some moves with it first. Bishop can get to the other side in one move, so it's not a rush. And I'm up 9 points of material, or 6 if you abandon this knight. He goes knight c3. This develops a piece, which is nice, and it also attacks my knight with his rook, which is not nice for him. I want to continue my development. I want to get this bishop out. So I can move either pawn, but I noticed that I can move this pawn 2 squares, defended by the knight. So it's a tempo move, and it frees up the bishop. So I'm going to do that. So it grabs these 2 squares, oops, this square and this square, and the bishop grabs this square and this square. So this moves, hits 4 squares in the opponent's territory, which is nice. That's a pretty powerful move, 4 squares. Our king is perfectly safe because he has no queen, he has no light square bishop that can harass it, so no problems. He can take our knight, but that would be a mistake because we would take his bishop. He should move his bishop, and our knight is still hanging, so he does move his bishop to e3, and now our knight is still hanging, so that's fine. In this position, I'm going to develop my last minor piece. Again, with a kind of a tempo, he has to react. He can't move his bishop like to the side because that will give my knight an evacuation square since my pieces coordinate. So he can take my bishop, I'll take, and then he takes my knight. That's reasonable for him. That's maybe what he should do. But now he takes my knight. That's fine too. Same thing, just different move order. I'm going to take his bishop because I'm up 6 points of material. So here we can bring our knight closer to the center, which is fine, but get it better developed, improve it, or we can get our rooks into the game. I'm inclined to get my rooks into the game, and so I'm going to get one rook to f8 and say, hey, if you check me, which he instantly checks me, I'm going to move my king towards the center, e6, controlling these squares. My rook protects my rook, my knight defends, and I'm up a rook, so good luck. If you trade a rook, it's obviously good for me because I'm up 6 points of material and I'll be the only one with a rook. So he goes to the side, he avoids the rook trade and goes rook d1, which puts a little bit of pressure on my knight. That's the threat, a little bit of pressure. What's the drawback? Well, he gives me the f file. Okay, so I still haven't developed all of my pieces. I'm going to bring my last rook to the second open file. Now both of my rooks are on open files. It's now an endgame. My king is towards the center. My rooks are connected. So everything is principled. You know, I'm trying to follow the rules pretty well. Not doing anything crazy, really. I'm just up a rook. And we'll see what Kate Glory does. She should, or they should resign. I mean, I don't resign, but they should resign. Because if you're going to play moves like a4, what are you even playing? Like, even if I give you another turn, what are you going to do? a5? If I give you another turn, a6? If I give you another turn, take? If I give you another turn, queen? So if I give you 6 free turns in a row, nothing happens. We just trade bonds. Okay? So anyway, now that my rooks are placed, my king is placed, I'm going to improve the knight. So I move it to a better square, and I open up my rook towards his rook. And I pressure this pawn that now moved there. So it's a multi-purpose move, and I'm just improving all of my pieces, trying to get them to their best squares. Okay, this move is terrible. He saw that these were opposing each other. He probably wanted to put his rook onto a stable square defended by the c2 pawn. However, this actually just hangs to my knight. So I'm just going to take it for free, or for the exchange. He's going to take back with the pawn. And now I'm up. A rook and an exchange. So this is not going well for him. So how do we convert? Again, we just improve our pieces. So the rook's the most powerful piece. So like if we had a queen on the board, we would say, okay, let's try to improve the queen first because it's so powerful. Let's try to get it to its best spot. But we don't have a queen. So what's our next most powerful piece? The rook. Okay, how do we get our rooks to their best spots? Well, this looks pretty active for this rook. We can do that. What about the other rook? Well, maybe all the way in the back. Looks kind of strong. So we could pick from one of these moves, I would say. I'm just going to go all the way in the back because that's very annoying and it can really just it can do whatever it wants, kind of. It's very annoying for white. Again, you could do this next. You could either move orders, probably the same, because white doesn't have any pieces. He moves his king up, and this is just a terrible move, because it encourages me to come in with a move like this, so now it's just a free tempo, and then I get another move, so it's really just bad. You could also do something more active like this. I don't know if it's more active, but something active like this, which immediately creates double threats. So, because let's say you go here, it is a powerful move. He goes back, but then you have to attack like a different way. So I'm just gonna go with the double attack. It's just an easier and quicker guarantee of a pawn, and I could play rook d4 check next when I want to. There's almost a mating net, but there's not. So now he's hanging this pawn. He's also hanging this pawn. I can take either one. This doesn't really matter. I'll start with this one and I'll take the other one next. It's no big deal. There's also a checkmate that I'm noticing because this whole time I've been seeing that if I go here, he had this escape square with my rook here. So if I can cover that, for example, if I can go rook h3 and then rook d4, that's checkmate. But here, if I go rook down, he's gonna take with check, and that ruins everything. I mean, he's not gonna take with check. He's gonna take. I can't check him, and that's gonna ruin everything. So we'll just keep it simple, and we will take his pawn with check. It's not a checkmate, but it's fine. He now has to go to one of two squares with his king, in which case we can take this pawn for free, as well as this pawn is hanging, as well as this pin is there. So he moves the knight. Because I'm up 11 points of material and I don't want to complicate matters, I'm just going to take the knight with my rook, because now I have just a full rook up. So I mean, they should just resign. They move their king. I'm just going to take the pawn, obviously. I'm going to pre-move this. You know what? To kind of half troll them, I'm going to take their pawn with my rook, because I have 5 passed pawns and there's nothing they can do. So this is kind of a troll moment. It's not exactly educational, I would say, unless you want to learn the best ways to troll your opponent. So I'm up 6 pawns. They refuse to resign. But once you leave the pawns on the same row, they auto-protect themselves and nothing can approach them. So it's very nice that way. This is just some trolling. Alright, I'm gonna finish the game so I don't waste your time. This is what I would do off camera though. Let me just give the easy checkmate. Okay, so we got 12 points. We are now 654. We won 2 more games. Hopefully you can see that these players aren't developing. They're breaking all the rules. They're moving the same pieces multiple times. They are not castling. They are hanging everything. Just terrible, terrible stuff. Okay. Hopefully this helps. We'll continue our speed run. Send me your rapid games to review. Goodbye.